I would like to say that you should not be smart, but I don't know how to could be smarter. We don't know anything about how to improve intelligence, and as well, we don't really know anything about how to improve intelligence either. But I can tell you that people who are intelligent come up with a strategy for solving your problem that's help them. If you want to know something about yourself in your bed, wanna insight to yourself, you got to mean this life, you got to be this right. This is no game. This what's one thing I'm doing wrong that I know I'm doing wrong that I could fix. That would fish. You meditate that, you will answer, and it won't be one you want, but a really necessary one. In this video, we will explore some of his best secrets for maximizing focus and achieving long-term success, so that you can study smarter, not harder. I often tell people to fix the thing you repeat every day, because people tend to think of those as trivial, right? You get up, you brush your teeth, you have your breakfast, you have your routines, yeah, you go through every day where those probably constitute 50% of your life. And we will think, well, they are Monday and I don't need to pay attention to them. That's not like, no, that's exactly wrong. The thing you do every day, there's a more important thing you do. Hence, now, all have to do is duty, arithmetic. We make an average of 25,000 decisions every single day. We can eventually lead to decision fatigue. Stay a mental overload that can impede a person's ability to continue making decisions. As my psychiatrist, Dr. Lisa explained, the more decisions you have to make, the more frustrated you develop and the more difficult it can become. This mental exhaustion can lead to poor choices, procrastination, or even to a tendency to avoid decisions together. One better way to reduce decision fatigue is by simplifying daily routines, such as planning meals in advance, maintaining a consistent wardrobe, or establishing score habits. Additionally, breaking down complex choices into smaller, manageable steps can make decision making feel less overwhelming, helping individuals conserve mental energy for more important tasks. I can tell you that people who are industrial come up with a strategy for solving the problem, not to handle them, and then when they do whatever they can do, stick to the strategy and solve. Example, if you sat down today or tomorrow for a couple of hours, 3 hours, and you do fill in a Google Calendar, whatever you happen to use with a strategy for studying, and a list of when you yeah, someone or do and do all of that. When you are to sit without study, then we will be in a position where you have to cram for 10 hours or they absolutely right before now. But turns out it's also a very effective way of studying, by the way. I mean, for some people who cram for 10 hours, say they are studying for 10 hours, but I really are because I can't study for 10 hours. I don't have the power of concentration what would enable me to do that for a period of time. I can measure about 3 hours of intense intellectual activity before I'm ready done. As developed in function is human neuroscience, further by learning whereas the session as spread our time between effective as not learning. This approach enhances memory retention and recall by encoding information into long-term memory. Research consistently shows that students who spy out their study perform better on assessment taken a week later compared to those who cram. In addition to spy learning, getting enough sleep plays a crucial role in learning and get memory. According to the sleep deprivation hinders the brain's ability to create new pathways for recently learned information, making it harder to retain knowledge. And it also the case that if you study in the sleep and the study in the sleep and the study in the sleep and you by it out, then you're much more likely to remember. And also much more likely to that you're much more likely to remember if you try to recall the material then still highlighting in that something is a very useful but reading, closing the book, summarizing what you read without opening the black book. That's useful. And the reason for that reason is that you're practicing memory and what you have to practice. If you're practicing memorization, you have to practice remembering. You don't just go over the thing over and do you have with recognition memory, but that won't help you with recall memory. The best thing you can do is read and write every day. couple hours every day. Write about things you find a bit important and see if you can discover what you believe to be true, and that will foundation, and it's unbelievably practical. Research published by Jackson V. Westad of Brigham Young University explores how reading literary fiction enhances our personal ability to understand others, skill known as theory of mind. This refers to the human capacity to recognize that others have beliefs and desires different from their own. In the study, participants were divided into groups and designed different reading materials. Afterward, they took a test measuring their ability to perceive others' emotions. The results show that those who read literary fiction score significantly higher than those who did not read at all. So what seems to happen in story is that they distill. So they watch people watch people, and then they tell story about what they see, but they leave a lot of the story, everything that's boring, hopefully. And then more story about setting thing get a sort of agreement, then there may be a great writer come along and write something really interesting, profile character information, then you will say the fiction, then say well that's not true. Because fiction, but then maybe that's not right. Maybe it's more than true. Because when the truth is meant in reality and it doesn't matter, what you want is the distillation. Um Interesting experience. And you might think, well, what is interesting? Well, the answer is you don't know. That's a thing that's so cool. When you think about behavior, you tend to think about voluntary behavior, but motivational style will listen habit activate depending on situation autonomic responsible. For example, when you're food deprived and you start to think about food and start to think organize your behavior toward food as an end to perceive the world that way your body as prepared for food, and so useful you think about motivated style as macro personality. According to an article from Connection Today titled The Scientific Truth Behind Fake It Till You Make It, mental imagery and actual perception say common neural circuits, though they have different varying dynamics. This phenomenon is explained by Hess law, which states that neurons that fire together wire together. In other words, if you do something in association with something else, the two things will get into line at the neural level. This principle highlights the brain ability to strengthen neural connection through repetition and association. For example, if someone repeatedly visualizes themselves speaking confidently in public, the brain starts to reinforce the same neural pathways used in actual public speaking, potentially improving the real life performance. Even if you're just walking to where you want to go, if you're successfully walking there, your brain chart what you're doing. The circuits that are activated while you're doing it, and while you're doing result in the result you desire, then the dopamine flows those little neurons that are active and make it them grow and flourish. So as you practice something that's working, the circuit that is activated as you are practicing is about in dopamine, and that makes it stronger and that feels good. It's growth. It's part of positive emotion. And so the positive emotion move you forward, but also encourage you to develop a habit of that practice. And so one of the things I would really use is don't make a habit of pursuing things that are good for you, because you build that into you. That's what happens if you become addicted to something. You build a little more monster inside you that grow is there's it after one go, or despite everything else, not a good outcome. In order to withstand suffering, let's say your life has shown may have some meaning. Well, okay, well, that's mean a bunch of things. It mean that part of way that's overcome suffering is by making the suffering into something meaningful. And I don't mean that philosophically. I mean it. It's okay, you make a mistake because you're suffering, you learn something about it. You don't make a mistake again. And I studied entrepreneurship writing with 258 participants. Researchers found that those encouraged into embrace discomfort feel greater sense of achievement and more likely to incorporate expressive solely into their daily life compared to those who were simply instructed to focus on tasks. Receiving negative experience and the side of progress is particularly motivating when positive experience are delayed and discomfort is immediate. It's a life, it's suffering idea. It's like why learn something cause you wrong. Who cares? It's make you suffer. Who care? You care. So if you run out a little scheme in the world, little action button, you don't get what you want. If you are especially if you choose your, but you tease and cry. And why is that? Because you don't know what you don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you are doing. It's a lot of time for some negative emotion. It indicate that you're wrong and it's terrible in some reason because it almost always mean that you learn required pain. Now I don't believe that exactly because people who are curious, and to go out and be curious and to learn new things can be very exciting. And so what it seems to be is that there's not a right of learning not too fast, and that hurts you. That's what me cry. From the possibility, give your dopamine kick. Fundamentally, you can benefit from the possibility without being overwhelming by the unexpected element of it, and you can tell what what's happening is one the coolest thing as far as I'm concerned.